How's it going, everybody? So in this video I thought I would go ahead and record me winding a tele set. Sometimes when it comes to winding a pickup, depending on the size of the pickup, you don't really have much of a choice on what kind of wire you're going to end up using. Changing the wire gauge changes the way that the pickup performs and the way it sounds. Sometimes, depending on what somebody's looking for, you've got to do some really strange things with wire gauge in order to accomplish that. Years ago, I had come up with a combination for bridge as well as neck for a tele set that I really liked, and I called it the JR. And the JR set was named after Jerry Reed. 43 gauges is a lot like human hair. It's really hard to see, and it'll just snap with very, very little force. So you've got to be real careful when you're using it. You've got to make sure that you're using the proper tension. And because I'm always worried about the wires breaking and stuff, I'll generally put like a thing of tape here, or when I'm doing humbuckers, sometimes I'll actually put just like a drop of super glue, because I do not want these things ever breaking. As soon as that's soldered into place, you end up coming through and you pop this off right here. And it's important that you get that thing hot, because if you don't get it hot, it's not going to end up melting the insulation that's on the magnet wire. So that has been done. And then also, even though I hadn't shown it, I went ahead and I also checked for the resistance between these 2 points to make sure that we have a good connection, everything's kosher, ready to roll. So this guy right here is ready to be wax potted. So I'm actually in the process of winding 2 sets, because these are going to be the very first pickups that I sell on rocksolidpickups.com. Okay, so this is going to be the very first set that's going to be available to the public. Now there's something else that I'm doing here that I'm not really showing you guys, okay, because it's not just throwing the winds on a pickup. When I end up winding pickups, there's some that when I wind it, I try to keep everything as tight as I can and just try to get as much wire on there as I can. There's other times where I'll do scatter winds throughout the entire process, intentional scatter winds, okay? There's other times that I try to keep everything on the money, and then what I'll do is every so often, at given intervals, I'll end up doing scatter winds for a specific amount of time, and then I'll go back to the normal. And then I'll wait, and then once again I do scatter winds and stuff. And doing things like that can change the dynamics of a pickup. Right, so even if you ended up taking the reading and you say, oh well, this is this type of magnet and this is this kind of wire and this is the resistance, so therefore I can match this pickup. Not necessarily, right? Because the way that you wind it actually has an effect on the way that the thing sounds. And this particular design of pickups I had made in a very specific way to achieve a very specific type of performance for a very specific type of dynamic, a very specific kind of sound. So even though it looks like I'm just throwing wire on here, let's just call it good, the reality is everything that I'm doing is intentional. Now, along with what I was just talking about, there's other things that you can do during the time that you're winding that will change the way that the pickup behaves. You can wind and focus on one side right here for a while, then shoot over to the next side and focus on that side for a while too. So in other words, you end up putting a large amount of wire on this side, and then you come over here, you try to keep this side empty. Then you wind over here, and then usually what will end up happening when you do that, well, there's a trick you can do to prevent what I'm about to talk about, but what it usually will do is almost create like a figure 8 in wire. And then what you have to do is go in and you fill in those gaps of the figure 8 in order to make it flat, and then you can do it again, right? And by doing that, it changes, once again, how the pickup performs. Time to replace the tape. Now, if you want to learn how to design your own pickups, as well as learn how to build custom guitars, you can get my guitar building course. that's at rocksolidpickups.com, which is, you know, same place that you order these pickups right here. Because right now I'm only going to be doing 2 sets, and in the future I'll be doing more, of course. Right now, this is going to be pretty much the beginning of it. But the guitar building course is about 22 hours or so of content, and it takes you through the entire process of building your own custom guitar or bass, and in high detail. So any type of guitar really that you want, you can make. I go over how to design it, how to make templates, how to actually build the thing. I go over necks, I go over fretwork, I go over all of that stuff. I go over finish work, I go over electronics. And one of the classes that's in that is winding and designing your own pickups. So if you've always wanted to get into something like this, that's the perfect way to do it. And you can get it at the rocksolidpickups.com website. Look on shop, go into videos, and that's where you're going to find it. When I had first started winding pickups, I thought it was something that there'd be no way I'd be able to really do it without having some type of like electronic engineering degree or something. I thought there was something that was very in-depth and academic about it. And after I had wound a couple, I was like, hey, this is a lot easier than I thought. And the more I started winding pickups, the more I started realizing that my initial concept about, hey, this is something that requires a lot of thought, and you know, you've got to really know what you're doing in order to wind a set, actually started becoming more and more valid and true, because anybody can literally wind a pickup. That's easy. Winding pickups is easy. But making a pickup do what you want it to do, that is a completely different animal. And it starts really getting into not only being able to understand, you know, how a pickup works on so many intricate levels, but it starts getting in almost to an art. Now, when I was talking about going to a restaurant and having a chef cook something for you, and the next time you show up it's different, the same thing holds true when it comes to pickups and watching somebody actually wind a pickup and seeing what they're doing, or looking at the design of the pickup, because it's almost like the spices that are on the food, okay? So it's like, I'm going to end up making you, I don't know, something like chicken marsala or whatever. There's certain ingredients that everybody adds in order to make it a chicken marsala, okay? But depending on how much herb you put here, depending on how much salt, depending on how much wine, depending on how much garlic, and all that other stuff, okay, it changes that chicken marsala, right? And the same thing is true when it comes to pickups. When I'm seeing somebody wind, or during the time that I'm winding, I'm already kind of calculating all of the seasoning to kind of understand what I'm going to end up getting as an end result. You know if you've put too much cayenne pepper in food. You know if you put too much salt. You know what the reaction is going to be, right? And so during the time that you do it, the more that you do this, the more you start getting really keen on that kind of stuff, and your ability to really just make any kind of pickup that you want that's got specific properties, no problem. So pickups, easy to learn, hard to master. Sometimes these screws give you a little bit of problems. So having something that can drive these guys in definitely helps. But this not only makes it look nice, but it also ends up protecting the coil. Because on a tele pickup, you know, there isn't a cover to it. And from here, generally I'll put a little bit of super glue on top of the coil wires to make sure that those things are protected, that they don't accidentally get cut or whatever. Because most of the people, when they're putting in their pickups, it's like a bull in a china shop. But now, as soon as I put my super glue on here to protect the wires, this guy will be ready also for wax pine. Anyway guys, that's my video. Hopefully you found it somewhat entertaining, enjoyable, perhaps even a little educational if I'm lucky. But like I was saying, you know, when it comes to winding pickups, it's easy to learn, difficult to master. And you can pretty much make a pickup sound pretty damn good, not really even knowing what you're doing. Quite honestly, you can make it sound pretty good. But if you want to really be able to dial it in and have specific purpose and know exactly why you're doing what you're doing and the end result, that takes a little while. My guitar building course does go over a lot of that stuff, but at the end of the day, your experimentation, that's what's going to make you really good at winding pickups. So if you're interested in one of my tele sets, because right now there's only going to be 2 up for sale, go ahead and go to rocksolidpickups.com, check them out, and first come, first serve. The only pickups that I will sell are ones that have actually been made and then they're ready to be sold. Okay? So if it says they're out of stock, then we're out of stock. If it says we have one in stock, that means as soon as you order it, it can be shipped out. Okay? So anyway guys, till next time, I'll talk to you later.